Hopefully, we can fulfill that requirement and get that thicker bulb, because that's what we really want. What's up, gardeners? I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving, and today we are going to plant some, no, not eggs, garlic. I keep my garlic cloves in here just for organization's sake. But I want to talk about if we really need to refrigerate our garlic before we plant it. Specifically, I'm planting soft neck garlic. But first, we need to check on our carrots, because I've got some that are growing covered, I've got some that are growing uncovered, and I've got some growing in a greenhouse. So I want to kind of see how they're doing, because we've had multiple freezes. And I've also been planting in my garden, even though I said I wouldn't, but we're gonna see how things are gonna go with that too. First up is the carrots that I have no plans to protect at all. And I mean, we've had multiple freezes at this point, and they are doing amazing. Lots of growth on them, nice and strong and healthy. And this was the first batch that I planted. I actually planted in multiple sowings. And so this is one of the last ones that I did. So they're coming up, but they're getting a little bit shaded out right now, but it's so late in the day, I don't think it really matters. My garden space, sunlight is a premium. So we do have to kind of keep that into account when I plant. But that bed was really a mess because the raccoons got in and dug it up, and that's why the carrots are just kind of scattered. But by the time they started germinating, I didn't really want to mess with it. So here is the greenhouse, and uh-oh, got a lizard on our onions. Poor thing's trying to stay warm, bless his heart. So, well, since you're looking at them, the onions are doing well. So we're just gonna let them grow out here until it's time to plant them. And these are the second sowing of carrots that we did. And they obviously are getting some frost protection in here, but they're looking mighty righteous as well. I did do a little bit of thinning in here, but everything's sowed a little thick. But even if I get baby fingerling carrots or something, I'm not overly concerned about that. The thing with carrots, if you plant them too thick, you won't get that nice big growth of a carrot. You'll get a bunch of little small ones, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. And both of those are the scarlet mayonnaise carrots. And over here in the wild garden, where we are covering it, except for the last freeze, I forgot to, but we're covering it with the plastic just to kind of try to accelerate that growth. I've got two kinds. I've got scarlet mayonnaise and I've got Imperator, maybe? Bigger carrots, like a Danvers sized carrot where it just really gets long. Because remember, the whole goal with this bed was obviously it was to get some carrots, but it was also to try and get the soil worked by the carrots because I had compaction issues. So the first row right here, these are the scarlet mayonnaise. I did these earlier, and I tried to do them in more of a row fashion so I could get bigger carrots for that penetration. And then in the back is the final sowing I did just a couple weeks ago. And they are getting true leaves now. And they're starting to come in pretty thick. You can see where my dog stepped in here, so that's kind of a bummer. But the whole goal here is just to get these to kind of dig into the ground. So it's still too early to tell if they're gonna make a difference with them covered. But at the same time, I'm not overly concerned about it. I think it's gonna be worth it because I do want that faster growth, because I want to get those carrots out of there sooner so that I can plant a different crop in there and really work that soil before spring really hits. And here, I said I wasn't gonna grow, once everything was done, I wasn't gonna grow anything else, but I had a change of heart. What gardener doesn't? So I had a bunch of kohlrabi sowed in the greenhouse and it was starting to get its true leaves, and I have a warm stretch coming up. That's something that's really important, is like looking forward in the weather, because I could see, we just had like a week of, I think over the past week, we've had 4 nights where it got down below 32. And now for the next 10 to 12 days, we should not, hopefully, be below, I think it was like 45. And a lot of the nights will be above 50. So my thought process was, let me get these kohlrabi in. I want to kind of see how far I can push the limits. And if I can get a good holding, they can start getting their roots set, then we should be good. So I want to kind of test that out, and I figure what's a better time to do it than now, because this will be a quicker crop as well. So even if for some reason I can't get them out until February, then I still have time to let the majority of this bed rest before I put my potatoes in, because this is where they're going to go to. Where the kohlrabi is, essentially, is where the potatoes are going to go. So these 2 rows here, you can see, I mean, I just put them in this morning. So they were getting leggy in the greenhouse, and with the sun out here, they're going to get more sun, so they should perk up pretty good. But we have purple Vienna kohlrabi. So I do know that I read that the purple kohlrabi is not as frost tolerant as the green kohlrabi, and it is a little bit slower, but that's the seeds I had, so that's what we're gonna roll with. And then for good measure, I just came in here and put a couple kale plants in, just to kind of succession sow in case we get a wild hair. And we just start munching on kale, you know, just going crazy with it. So then the garlic. So before I can really talk about garlic, I need to plant my garlic, because that's like first and foremost. All right, so this is my garlic, and this is actually grocery store garlic that I saved from last year. So first things first, I did not buy any more grocery store garlic. This year, I wanted to save my seed and regrow it, because from what I understand, each year you grow it, it gets better and better and bigger and bigger. So as I was taking these cloves apart, the one thing I noticed immediately was this clove right here in particular. It came out of the middle of the plant. So last year it was just filled with these little slivers. I didn't have any of those in this at all. So there's a lot of high hopes for this. So we'll see how it goes this year. You know, each time we do, it'll be a little bit better, more and more. But I'm gonna plant 4 in a square foot. So roughly, we're gonna put them in pointy side up, obviously. And I'm just gonna put it in just like that. And I stagger them. So I do a couple like that. And then on this side, I'll do in between. And I'm actually gonna go a little bit closer, because they can be packed in pretty close. You see how we have 1, 2, they go zigzag down? That's how we're gonna plant all of our garlic this year, just like that. And so garlic doesn't take a whole lot of space up. And I plan to get 36 cloves of garlic in this 8-foot row. So we will see how it goes, but this year it worked out a lot better. There you go, right, nice and right in a line, good to go. Right, now that that's done, hopefully we can keep the vampires away, and I'll show you what I did here. So after I was done, I had to come back in and add a little bit of topsoil, because I need to raise the level in my beds a little bit, but then I mulched it again. And that kind of feeds into all of this. So what that'll do is when we have these warm days like we're having, it'll actually keep the soil cooler, and it'll keep the temperature from rising too much, because, you know, garlic needs a period of about 50 degrees in order to get those nice big bulbs. Now I do want to address real quick why I'm growing grocery store garlic, and it wasn't because I necessarily wanted to test it. It was just kind of because I didn't have a choice last year. I couldn't find garlic anywhere, because we have to plant it so late in the year where I live that it was all sold out. So we got it, and I think it's technically, if you get it at the store, bought organic soft neck garlic, and it's purple achillium. I think that's how you say it. I'm not totally sure. But that's what we put in here, and like I said, the bulbs have gotten better and better each year. And in each of those furrows, each of those rows you saw me dig out, I put a balanced 10-10-10 fertilizer in there. Ultimately, I'd like to put a little bit more nitrogen in, but I put it in there because when the roots start to grow out, they will immediately have access to nutrients, so then we can get a bigger, more growth, bigger bulbs. And because it's organic, it's actually going to take a couple weeks for it to actually, I think it's technically 3 to 6 weeks for it to kind of incorporate in the soil and start to break down. So that's why I put it in there just like that. Now, as far as refrigerating your garlic before you plant it, there's 2 schools of thought on that. So one is you've got hard neck and you've got soft neck garlic. I have to grow soft neck garlic because it can and it will grow if you don't have like solid cold temperatures. Hard neck garlic is the opposite. So it really needs that cold. But even though we will definitely get, more than likely we'll get that period of real cold that it needs. And when I say real cold, like below 50, I think it needs like about a month before it really, that cold requirement is met. We'll get that between the nights and the cool days at some point throughout the year. But putting it in the refrigerator gives it that opportunity to give you a jump start on it. So I only put it in for a couple weeks. And like I said, I put it in today. I have 2 weeks roughly of it getting into the 60s to 50s during the day, and then just in the 50s to 40s at night. So it could be hit or miss. Now after that, who knows? We've had Christmases in shorts and 80 degrees. We've had snow, which isn't very often, so I'm not trying to trip. But there's all kinds of different weather patterns that we can get. So, if you live in the South, it's a good practice. Put it in the refrigerator just to kind of give it that jump start, because what it's going to do is, even though it will grow without that cold period, unless you're like real far south and you don't ever get that cold period, which then you have to look at like elephant garlic. But if it grows, even if you don't get it, you'll get a bigger bulb out of it. So last year, that's what the problem I had with it was. We didn't have a really cold winter last year. Actually, last winter was really warm. So it can, like I said, it can go either way. So I just err on the side of caution. So I put it in the refrigerator for about 2 weeks. I have a little mini fridge in my garage that I put my bulbs and, anything I need to stratify as far as seeds go. And then I had a couple bulbs of garlic in there, and then we broke them apart. I left them in there for about 2 weeks, and then we'll get another week, and then hopefully, we can fulfill that requirement and get that thicker bulb, because that's what we really want. And especially when you're growing, like with me growing this grocery store garlic, and I don't really know any other way to refer to it, so I'm just going to do it that way. Like I said, I've read that over the years, you'll get a thicker and thicker bulb. And so even from one year to the next, like we had, I think it was about 25% of them were like real nice bulbs as far as what compared to what we put in. But next year, hopefully 50% will be more. And then the next year, 75%, because I picked the biggest bulbs with the biggest cloves and the healthiest looking ones to put into the ground. And then I can develop my own seed stock over years. I don't have to buy anything. I don't have to buy any kind of garlic seed or anything like that to put into the ground. When I say garlic seed, I mean like stock, not like an actual pack of seeds, like bulbs of garlic. But I don't really care personally what garlic I grow. As long as I enjoy the taste and it grows and produces what I want, I'm good. So that's why I only did one row that was 1 foot by 8 foot this year, is because that's all I had. So I'll have a little bit left over come spring. We can get more, and then hopefully we can save more and more. And as the cloves get bigger, it should take less cloves in order to save our seed stock. And that's going to be really important. Anybody out there has grown garlic from the grocery store, let me know in the comments how it's worked for you, and over the years if it's actually gotten bigger and bigger, because I'm really curious to find out. I know at one point when I lived up north in Massachusetts, I was growing, I don't know what kind of garlic was, and it worked fine, but it was a hard neck. So down here, again, it's different. But let us know in the comments. I'd be curious. And if you've liked this, give us a like and a subscribe.